this evening. In its technical sense, open government describes the idea that citizens have a right to access the documents and proceedings of government to allow for effective public oversight. In a practical sense, open government could be described as a willingness to share government information that will help the public to participate in decisions that affect them. It also assumes that government is ready to improve the day-to-day input of the public into the decisions they make about services, the decisions they make about strategy, and also about spending public funds. Now, this is far easier said than done, as you might agree. As a practical example, if following all the habits for state civil servants, even simple questions may run into a bureaucratic war. For example, a parent might face a very long path if trying to ask authorities about what resources are available for equipment and upgrades in the community school. The parent finds making input to the authorities on what is actually needed is likely to be even more challenging. As a matter of fact, my research has indicated that some countries, like South Africa, take the inputs of the local citizens from local communities into account when drawing their budgets. Open government approaches suggest that the information would ideally be made available at a local level. Also, we can look at Rwanda that takes the budget of the country and breaks it down for the local populace to understand. The first question on the open government is on normalizing access. Are there access to information, by the way? Are there steps your administration will be taking to make information and ministries in an easy manner to the public? Are there steps your administration, if elected governor, will be taking to make information from ministries, departments, and agencies on your plans more accessible to the public? And also, please tell us if there are priority areas within these steps. If we have specific areas you'd like to focus on within these steps. We'll take the first response. On open governance, are there steps that your administration is willing to take to make information on the different NDAs more open and accessible to the public, where members of the public can know, if they want to, your plans and your operations, and of course they can get that information. Also, do you have specific areas within these steps that you're willing to take? We'll take the first response from Mr. Okuku-Pinsai.
Thank you very much. At the foundation of good governance is transparency, openness, accountability, and participation. And so for us, access to information by the citizen is a fundamental right. Nobody can deny them that right. It's further enhanced by the Freedom of Information Bill. It makes it mandatory for every citizen to have access to information on government activities. We intend to take the following steps to enhance citizens' access to information. One is that we're going to institutionalize quarterly accountability forum, multi-level. What that means is that every quarter, government in an open space will give account of its stewardship. And commissioners or members of cabinet can be held to account for their actions and programs of their ministries, departments, and agencies. The second thing we intend to do, what is different from what we're going to do in terms of accountability forum, is that we're going to send a bill to the State House of Assembly. It will be institutionalized, unlike the current method where it is done on a quarterly basis, but it's not institutionalized. The second thing we intend to do is the fact that we're going to create multiple ICT-driven platforms for people to have access to information. And so it is mandatory for every ministry to put out your information in the public domain. What are your activities in the Ministry of Agriculture? What is that you're doing? What is that you intend to do going forward? Mandatory. And our website, you can access that information. You can ask questions and you're bound to get response. That's the second thing we intend to do. Now, the other thing we intend to do is to rejig our budgetary process. The current method is to send budgets to the State House of Assembly. But we want to get stakeholders involved in the budget preparation process. We are not superhuman beings to know the demands of every community. At the time the budget will be in this draft stage, we will engage the communities. Continuous engagement is the answer. And so we engage the communities on what government is planning to do, how government is planning to do it, how government intends to fund it. We'll put it out there at the community and collect community opinion and impute it in the budgeting process. Then we can now proceed to the State House of Assembly. Those are some of the steps we intend to take. Now, beyond that is the issue of participation of people in the entire gamut of governance. Access to information, we have said, is a right. It shouldn't be optional. Now, but the participation of the people is in itself the foundation of that. If the people are alienated from the activities of government at any stage at all, then we're getting in trouble. We're going to create different platforms for people to be engaged. Now, government will engage people on policy before those policies are formulated, on laws before those laws are made, through town hall meetings and through other platforms. And most importantly, we will look at the possibility of exploring technology to its fullest to ensure that our people are involved in policy formulation and policy implementation. Thank you very much.
We'd like to move to the next speaker, Mr. Troy Pearson, please.
Of course, the real question that comes to mind is why have they not done it already? And the reason they've not done it already is simply because it wasn't seen as important. I think for avoidance of doubt, when we talk about open government, we're talking about a variety of things. Yes, there's the Freedom of Information Act, which obviously has a role in that. Freedom of Information Act in this country the idea was created in 1999. And it wasn't until 2007 that it was eventually passed under the administration of Goodluck Jonathan. Freedom of Information Act is fantastic in law at state level, at federal level it applies. But Lagos State and Ekiti states have gone ahead to pass the Freedom of Information Act for their states. So we want to do the same. But beyond Freedom of Information Act, which basically is access to information, and also helpful for investigative journalism, which is one of the problems in society today where journalists have lost their investigative touch. We also are very clear that in an open government, the budget of that government should be publicly available, not just on the websites, but as Kofi has said, quite rightly, available to members of the public. They need to know what the government's budget is and how that budget is going to be implemented. We're not talking about headlines, we want details. Those details need to be open and available. If you go to the Rivers State government's website now today, you'll see the budget for 2013. But it's not in a very readable format. So we need to have this thing not just available, not just open online, but also needs to be in readable formats. Beyond that, of course, we need to also look seriously at local participatory budgeting. I said earlier that in my running around the states to prepare a roadmap for a renewal, I went community to community asking them what they want. So I think avoiding demonstrated engagement. And we talk about participatory budgeting. Participatory budgeting is not just a term, it's an exercise. And that exercise has been used very well in places all over the world. Kofi mentioned in Rwanda and South Africa. But the real model that we can learn from is in Brazil. And in Brazil, they've done a fantastic job in terms of local participatory budgeting. It has applied quite deeply since 1995. And what happens there is that communities decide their spending priorities. Not only do they decide their spending priorities, they also gather to agree amongst them who should represent them when it comes to discussions with the government. You can't hold a town hall meeting and discuss local participatory budgeting. It will be too unruly, too unwieldy. So going to the nitty-gritty of it, local participatory budgeting in its true sense means that people from the community, representing the community, discuss with government prior to a budget coming out to agree what the priorities of that community are. They then sit down with experts to put spending proposals, which the government will either approve or disapprove. That is how you get people to get involved in government. And ultimately, studies have shown that people pay more taxes when they can see how their money is spent and they see that they are part and parcel of the process of spending. So we need website portals, we need proper engagement, and you cannot give what you do not have. You don't have your listening ear, you will not suddenly develop it today. Thank you.
We now will welcome so we can give us his response.
Thank you very much. My colleagues have enumerated certain things that will show that the government is open, or if they're elected, how they're going to run an open government. Yes, they've talked about the issue of access to information. Let me say this clearly, that in addition to all these things that we think are necessary, and I've said before, if a citizen of Rivers State requires an information about a particular subject or a particular matter, and say, for example, Ministry of Works, he wants to know what happens to this and that. The only way you can show seriousness and that citizens will be able to have documents that pertain to government activities. If a citizen writes to the Minister of Works, for example, and the Commissioner and the Permanent Secretary that is responsible for that refuses to avail that citizen that particular information, obviously, as the Chief Executive, as a leader that shows that you really want to run an open government, that Commissioner or that Permanent Secretary will be sanctioned. Because it is not enough for you to say it will be in the website. It is not everything that is in the website. Take, for example, you can have a budget and then put not the complete budget in the website. That's the truth. It has happened several times. Members of the country can even tell you most governments want 2 budgets. And if you ask them to see the budget of this, what you will see will not be the original budget. So, giving you that is not enough. For us, we will make sure that every citizen that requires of a particular subject matter, that citizen is entitled, and where the particular ministry refuses to avail that citizen that particular information, as the leader, as the Chief Executive, I will have to sanction that particular head of the ministry. That in a way will give some seriousness that yes, we are committed to have an open government. 2, our budget must be published to members of the public, not the one, let it be fully published, so that if tomorrow you can hold it against the government, signed by the governor of the state, this is the budget of Rivers State, and signed by the governor of the state. If the budget is passed today by the House of Assembly, in the next 2 weeks, it should be made available to members of the public. Not at the end of the year, certainly not. Thirdly, our financial account must be audited and published yearly. Yearly. Must be published, must be audited and published yearly, so that citizens will know that these are the financial transactions of government and compare with the budget they have at hand. To see that what is in the budget, does it tally with the financial transaction of government? And involve, like I said, local, we call it community budgeting.
Thank you, gentlemen. The second question actually seems to have been answered by each of you. Talking about the position of whether the public should participate in seeing and discussing state government budgets, but I think you've all handled that, and you've told us a little Friday of that. So we move on to question 3. Maybe I would set another question along the line. But the next question, please remind me you have an opportunity to respond to each other. In our public consultations at different times, we have noted some skepticism from the public in River State about paying more taxes. The issue of taxation is something that has been talked about for over and over again. There is a notable concern about where the funds will go and whether they will be correctly applied. Some of this skepticism seems to be based on disagreeing with how the funds are spent, into how resources are applied. In other words, people wonder how these funds are spent and how they will be applied. Now, what is your approach, gentlemen, to open government that will make the public feel that they have a stake in the state government and therefore they'll be willing to pay taxes at a significant rate? Simply put, how would you carry the people along using the funds of states in such a way that they are willing to pay taxes? I'll start with you, Mr. Tony Frisby.
Thank you. Well, we've talked a little bit about local participatory budgeting. I believe that is definitely a catalyst to inclusivity and, of course, ownership. And I think that in itself will help towards reduce skepticism as far as taxation is concerned. Of course, taxes are legal and taxes, well legal, of course, need to be paid. Skepticism or not, this is why it's important that you vote in a government that you can trust to use your resources wisely. I think that one of the major things that the government will need to do is to demonstrate that wastage and what you might call generic spending needs to be avoided. A typical case in point is on a ward by ward or local government by local government basis. Government spending needs to be when it is most. It's not necessary or necessary that the government must spend in every local government at the same time, every ward at the same time, simply because you want to satisfy political expediency. We need to focus our spending on where the need is most. Now, if governments become more sensitive to the priorities of people, then people will become more sensitive to the priorities of taxation. So I think spending and controlling your spending and wiser spending also will help towards giving individuals much more confidence in the tax system. We talked about open budgets. Open budgets are very important simply because we want a situation where individuals can actually say there's a school in a community. It's in the budget. And I can go to that community, or I am from that community, I can ascertain if that project has been completed. And if I'm paying taxes and I can see what is going on, of course, I'm much more confident that these projects that are in the budget, that are transparent and open, actually help us. We talked earlier about budgeting as far as open government is concerned, but we also need to ask ourselves about procurement. In many cases where open government is applied, you actually have a situation where whatever the government buys is also publicly available. If the government buys a Toyota Camry, you know how much a Toyota Camry is purchased by the River State government. We're not just talking about openness in terms of budgeting, we're also talking about openness in terms of procurement. All these things build confidence. We're not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight. But what we would like to see from a River State government is a government that understands that openness and transparency is a fundamental right of the individual. And that's what I am hoping that I will be able to demonstrate in my government. So the key issue in terms of encouraging taxation and reducing skepticism is a government's efficient management of the resources. I mentioned earlier that a governor, I don't want to mention his name, looked at a 23 billion naira project and said that it was a waste of funds. Now, if a 23 billion naira project is a waste of funds, then the question is, why are people paying taxes for a government that can waste 23 billion naira?
I have said here, we don't intend to introduce new taxes. Part of the things we're going to do is to block leakages in the current system. Aside from blocking leakages, we will also massively eliminate waste and be more effective and efficient in deployment of government resources. We will try to get our priorities right. Part of the challenge government faces is the issue of priorities. When you get your priorities wrong, then you're setting up the expenditure pattern right. So we will restructure our spending pattern to make sure that only priority issues get the desired attention at a time when revenue is dwindling. The other thing is the issue of the environment. Now, when we talk about the environment, we're talking about the infrastructural environment and the regulatory environment. If the environment is hostile to business, why would businesses pay tax? If the environment supports businesses, they willingly pay their taxes. But because my colleagues have taken on a number of the issues that we have raised, I'd like to rest my case here.
Thank you, gentlemen. Finally, in the spirit of transparency, because open governance is all about transparency. Gentlemen, have you publicly declared your assets? If not, are you willing to publicly declare your assets if you become governor of River State? And how would you tackle the problem of corruption? I'll take it again. Have you publicly declared your assets? If not, are you willing, in the spirit of transparency and open governance, to publicly declare your assets? Finally, how would you tackle the niggling issue of corruption? We start with Mr. Wike.
Well, for your information, I've been declaring my assets since 1999. Since 1999, I've been in public office, and so the records are there. So I declared my assets to the body that's responsible, and that's the Code of Conduct Bureau. As it relates to corruption, this is a very nagging issue in this country today when you talk about corruption. And I used to tell people that when people workshop for corruption, I find out that that's one way of even being corrupt. When people want to siphon funds and to give it a name, they say workshop on how to tackle corruption. And then every year you see corruption is increasing. Now, it's very clear, first of all, if you want to tackle the issue of corruption, you as the person who is in charge must show an example. Now look, my body language will tell where those who are working with me, not merely on pages of newspaper, not merely on television channels. No, that's not where issues of corruption is supposed to be solved. If you give me the mandate, one thing I will do as the governor of the state is one, everything that has to do with government contract must be open. One, there must be open bidding. I will amend the law through the House of Assembly that gives the governor the power to award contract up to the tune of 30%. What can be corrupt more than that? Tell me. A provision where people make law to give to a governor that you can on your own award contract to the tune of 30% of the budget. How do you tackle corruption? So as a leader, the first thing I will do, one, that law, I will amend it through the support of the legislation by making sure that the governor does not have anything called percentage to award contract on his own. That is one way of showing that you are serious about tackling the issue of corruption. Two, if any of those who work with me are found in one way or the other, I will hand them over to the agency that's responsible for prosecution. Some people talk about corruption. How How many people have they handed over to the police? How many people have they handed over to EFCC? Rather, what we do is to institute legal actions that will inhibit authorities that will fight corruption. We have to strengthen institutions like the judiciary. It's important because at the end of the day, the adjudication of those corrupt cases must go to the courts. So you must strengthen the institution. I don't believe that the only one way you can stop corruption, like people have said, is to make a pension law where, as I sit here, I will have a property anywhere of my choice in Abuja or in Port Harcourt. That if I have that, that will make you not to be corrupt. That is not correct. Certainly not correct. Because you're not the only one who will fight against corruption. You need the assembly. You need the judiciary. So if you, as the chief executive, is saying that one way to stop this corruption is to allow the chief executive to have this. What about the judiciary that will adjudicate the matter? What will the judiciary have?
We move on to the next speaker, and that is Mr. Peterson.
Thank you very much. Well, if we talk about corruption, I want to believe that if we are sincere to...
So the first question is, have you publicly claimed your assets?
Thank you very much.
Corruption?
Well, let me say that in 1999 I declared my assets. I did same in 2002, again in 2007, and in 2011. So I've declared my assets over and over again. But I don't think that's public declaration. So if you go to a code of conduct bureau and declare your assets, that's not public declaration of assets. But I've declared my assets severally. If we talk about corruption, then so many persons would not have any moral right to put themselves forward for any elected office. But we're going to deal with the issue of corruption as it is here on the face value. The first thing I intend to do when I'm elected governor of Rivers State is to codify our code of ethics, the Rivers State government code of ethics, as it deals with the issue of corruption and other value issues. That's one. What it means is that all our officials will subscribe to a code of ethics. It becomes a further tool to enhance your prosecution if at any point in time you are found in a situation where you have compromised yourself. The second thing is the issue of enforcement of laws. And somebody has talked about the closure of the judiciary. I am sure that all those listening to us are aware there is no Rivers State government that closed the judiciary. It is the PDP-controlled federal government. It has absolutely nothing to do with Rivers State government. And so I've talked about the enforcement of laws. Now the third thing is strengthening institutions and institutional capacity to deal with corruption. I'm very proud to say the current administration of Governor Chukwuemeka Amici is the first in the country to pass a Bureau of Public Procurement law. And that law has been implemented since its passage. Somebody again talked about the issue of 30%. Perhaps we've not read the law. It says 30% in case of an emergency. If there's flood, if there's disaster, the government can spend in that context. And so we will strengthen institutions that fight corruption, including institutions that prevent corruption. If we implement to its fullest, to the letter, the Bureau of Public Procurement law and other similar laws and strengthen the institutions, we will be doing ourselves a lot of good in terms of fighting corruption. But most importantly is the issue of strength of character of the leader. Leaders are supposed to be models. If a leader kills fast, if a leader puts hands in the till, then you can't control your subordinates. I believe I have that strength of character to model what a leader who is not corrupt is. And that's what I want to bring to bear in the governance of Rivers State. Thank you very much.
Right, gentlemen, you have a opportunity to respond, make comments of each other, but a major problem, and I believe those sitting here will agree, is when you guys get into government, holding you to account becomes a very tall order. I saw a picture yesterday in the papers where someone was campaigning, vote for me, I want to be the next governor. And was standing through the roof, the sunroof of his car. And when he was voted as governor, sat in the car with tinted glasses, told the driver to roll up the windows and lock the door. In other words, when you're elected, you're inaccessible. You've been campaigning around Rivers State, you've been saying various things. You've been here today, you've made promises and commitments. How would you ensure and open yourself up to the people to hold you accountable based on promises?
You know, I'm not answering my question yet.
Do you mean? All right, so you answered the question, sorry about that, it's an oversight.
I didn't want to interrupt. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Thank you. First of all, I'm glad that you asked this question because it just revealed to me that my brothers have been in government since 1999. I didn't even know that they've been in government since 1999. No, I've never held a public office before, which has placed me at a disadvantage in some eyes, but an advantage in others. So I've never had the opportunity of declaring my assets publicly, but I've been looking forward to it. Not just to declare to the code of conduct period, but also to declare publicly, not just in terms of assets, but also accounts as well. How to deal with corruption? It's a very interesting question. For me, I think it's very easy to take one very obvious step, and that is to lift the perpetual injunction on the EFCC by the Rivers State government to prevent them from, in quotes, harassing any Rivers State public official. Currently, we all know, anybody who is a politician knows that there is such an injunction. And my responsibility will be to ensure that injunction is lifted, so that if you're a Rivers State official, you put your hands in the till, tamper with public funds, you will face the full wrath of the law. The government of Rivers State will not protect you. As governor, I will be protected, of course. But I'm not too sure why successive governorship candidates continue to dodge this subject, that there is a perpetual injunction on the EFCC to avoid them from harassing, in quotes, any Rivers State government official. So that will be lifted. I was also tempted, and I spoke to a couple of lawyers, and they told me it was illegal. Was to find the first person that we can catch stealing, and then parade the person on the bar road in an open top flatbed. But I was told that that would be too harsh and somewhat illegal. But the truth of the matter is that we need to lead by example. And I've said it many times before that the absence of consequence is part of the problem we have in this country called Nigeria. There is no consequence for doing anything. No consequence for stealing. There's no consequence for electoral violence. There's no consequence for corruption. There's no consequence for disrespecting elders. There's no consequence for insecurity. There's simply no consequence. So until we can start to establish consequence, we will not be able to change things. So the first way to deal with corruption, of course, is to establish consequences for corruption. And so for me, I think the first thing that I would like to do is lift that injunction, perpetual injunction, on the Rivers State government. Now, my brothers know that one of the biggest challenges we have right now is perception. And perception is reality. It will be very difficult to convince any of the public out there that politicians are genuinely interested in addressing corruption. Because corruption is so entrenched and ingrained in our system that if you fight corruption, it fights back. Now, unfortunately for the general public, there is a distance between them and government. They see that government is far removed from them, far removed from their needs. And I think that the first thing that we will need to do is to show them that we on our high horses can also be brought down. And therefore, they themselves, because if you're a young man now and you steal maybe 1,000 naira, you can go to jail, or at least you'll be in a waiting trial for months, especially without a judiciary, you can be there for years. So, what is the consequence for stealing 1 billion naira? I think that is the message that we need to send to our people. Thank you.
All right, we'll come back to you, Mr. Wike. The last question I asked on how the public can hold you to account when you get into office as regards to the promises you've made while campaigning and, of course, the commitments that you've made. You can answer that in 2 minutes? Yes, 2 minutes.
Sorry. Access to
how can the public and the people of Rivers State hold you to account based on the promises you made and the commitments you made on the things you do if elected, the campaign promises, when you become governor?
It's very simple, and that's why I also say that I'm happy that the way the politics in this country, the way the politics in this state is going, which has gotten to the level now that votes must count, and that is why this is the first time I'm seeing a public debate in this state. Yeah, I don't know whether anyone has been here before 1999. I've never participated in a debate of this nature or witness. But what is important is, if you have a contract with the people, if you have a covenant with the people, and you said, look, I want you to vote for me and hold me accountable if this is not done. One thing you must always know, a politician will come back tomorrow. When he comes back tomorrow, it is your duty to not say, you are back. Fine. What were the promises you made to other people? Have you fulfilled it? No. Therefore, other people will not give you our vote. It's very, very important. There's no way that citizens of the state, nobody can go on the road to say, look, we are holding accountable because you have failed on their promises. It is very, very simple. And that is the only way citizens can revolt, not by revolution, by fighting, no, but by the card, the voter's card. You have to say, we cannot continue to support this party, we cannot continue to support this government because the government has failed us. That's what has have the whole accountable. It is important. That is the only way. That's not, you can't sue the governor that he promised you to build a job for Kula where salary comes from, and then the job was not done.
We'll now move over to Mr. Peter side.
Thank you very much. I like to say this. Budget is a piece of legislation. And like any other piece of legislation, it is justiciable. And so breach of the budget is justiciable. You can approach the court if government breaches the budget. Budget is a law. It's simply called budget, it's an appropriation law. So if the government breaches the budget, you can approach the court. The second information I need to give you is that breach of the budget is an impeachable offense. And so if the government breaches the implementation of the budget, you can call your representative to initiate the process of impeaching the government. That's a great tool to hold the government and government accountable. And that tool is available to all citizens. I've said here that every single month we will make public our income and expenditure. It becomes a basis for anyone to approach the court if the person so wishes. In addition to creation of other platforms where people can ask questions and get response. If you're not satisfied with the response, please, there are so many other things you can do. And so in terms of holding us accountable for our actions, there are many avenues. I will not encourage people to go on the streets and be violent. I will not. But there are legal means to hold the governor and government accountable. Let's explore those legal means. Until we become accountable, government will not work for us. Like I said, accountability is the very bedrock of good governance. Thank you very much.
Mr. Prince, please.
Thank you. You may want to be calling me chief because I'm not an official chief. But no, just out of let's see, I think it's Prince is fine. Listen, what is important right now is that our Rivers citizens need to find themselves closer to government. It needs to be engagement. When promises are made, we can all talk about how you can reach us later. We can make promises, but the truth of the matter is just as you described. Politicians will enter into their offices and they'll close their doors. It's not new, it's been happening. It's a way, it's a style. My brother is talking about impeaching the governor and getting the House of your representative to institute impeachment proceedings. I'm not sure which planet is on, but I know that as much as it is a possibility, it's not likely to happen. What I believe we need to do is, before we give this mandate to any of us here, we need to be very, very careful at who we give the mandate to. We can't give the mandate to people who are vindictive. We can't give the mandate to people who are not comfortable with engagement. We cannot give the mandate to people who don't understand the importance of the people. People are paramount, the people are important. I can assure you that when you make one of us governor, you will accentuate the bad in us and you will accentuate the good in us. Where we are very bad, we will become worse. Where we are very good, we will become better. So it's a decision that you have to take very wisely, take very lightly, because ultimately we're not going to become different people. We will become more of who we already are. Thank you very much.
All right, we'd still like to remind you that the audience is expected to remain silent. Thank you. We'll take the responses, final comments on this particular segment on open governance, starting with Mr. Peter Sai. We'll then go to Principal as his asked to be called, and finally, Mr. Toby, Mr. Yesomiki. Start with you, Mr. Peter Sai.
On the lighter note, I said you should refer to him as a chief because he's one. And I want to say that I didn't buy my PhD. I wrote a thesis, and I earned it. And so, Dr. Peter Sai is more appropriate, but that's on the lighter note.
You have 2 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. First, Tony, my brother, said that 2 states have passed the Freedom of Information bill. That's not very correct. You should check his record again. They have policy units on Freedom of Information bill. I am aware that Lagos State government sent the State House of Assembly the Freedom of Information bill. That has not been passed. Maybe he needs to check out his information again. The other one is to inform the watching public. Rivers State government budget under Governor Chukwu Otimamechi is available online, full budget. And so if somebody says that the budget comes online 2 days after it's been passed, that's not correct at all. That's not fair. I think that we can be more honest than that. Now, somebody again talked about the fact that you can have 2 different versions of the budget. That's criminal. You know, nobody will do that. The budget is an open document, a document in the public domain. You can't have a private version and a public version. Then somebody said schools were built without needs assessment. My happiness is that some of us were in government when Governor Mechi initiated the 750 school project. All of those schools, before they were conceived, before they were built actually, there was needs assessment. Then somebody talked about Caribbean White Hospital. If we don't know the records, we should better keep quiet. The Caribbean Hospital was initiated as a public-private partnership, and the contribution of the government was budgeted for. Another issue is the Oyokoto patient settlement. Please, you can go back to Oyokoto. I represent Oyokoto in National Assembly. There is a model primary school in Oyokoto built by Governor Chukwu Otimamechi.
Thank you, please. We don't actually accept the use of the word keep quiet on other candidates, so please take note.
Thank you.
This case, we'll go to Principal, please.
Thank you. There's so much to respond to. I don't know if I have enough time. But let me just quickly say that when my brother Wiki mentioned sanctioning public officials for non-response to Freedom of Information inquiry, we must also remember that the government has the right not to respond for reasons of security, of course, national security. So we have to be careful that we don't go and sanction somebody for doing the right thing. In terms of my brother Dakuku said a lot of things here. He talked about 750 schools and needs assessment. Clearly there was no needs assessment done. In the Mechi government, I think many of us can speak authoritatively. In the first 10 years, some of us were there as the think tanks, while some of us were there as executors. I can tell you that there was no needs assessment done. And if there was a needs assessment done, we will not have so many of those schools now growing grasses and weeds around them. The truth of the matter is that the political distribution of schools echoes what the former minister said, which is that there wasn't proper planning. Let's agree, we all make mistakes, that's why pencils have erasers. The bottom line at the end of the day is that if we recognize our mistakes, then we can correct them. But if we don't acknowledge our mistakes or we don't recognize our mistakes, then there's no plan to correct them. And that is the fear that I have, that if a government does not recognize its mistakes, then it is more than likely bound to repeat them. I just think that when we've made statements here, we need to check. I've said now that on the Rivers State government site, there is a budget for 2013. If there is another site, please let us know so we can go and check it.
Move on over to Mr. Wiki for his comments.
Thank you for reminding us about the rules and the use of languages. That tells us also where we're headed to. You talked about how we will hold us accountable. Our campaign promises has not to do with impeachable offenses of the governor. We know that the House of Assembly has a duty if the governor violates the Constitution. And part of that has to do with breach in terms of implementing the budget, has to do with impeachable offenses. But if you fail in your campaign promises, what do you do? What would the people do? The only option is to reject you when you come back. That's the only option. There's no coordinator to say you swing because you made promises. That's not correct. Secondly, you talk about the PDP control government operating judiciary. It's also not correct. This is the first time in the history of this country we had people who have gone on strike for 9-10 months and their salaries have been paid. Which government has ever done it if you have a more hand in it? Mention where in the history of this country, even if their salary will be paid, it is only when the strike is called off. So who's fooling who? Junior officers usually went on strike and their salaries have been paid. Well, it's for the public to know. You talk about the law says emergency situation is not correct. But assuming do not continue, who defines what is emergency situation? Who defines emergency situation? So the whole gamut is just to aid corruption. That is all. When you give a chief executive 30% of the power to award contract without due process, what can be more corrupt than that? So please, with all everything we are doing here, let us tell the people the simple truth. Thank you.